going? Well, been a long time. Back for another review for y'all. This time I'm going to deviate from talking about superhero movies for a bit. I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to talk about a childhood movie that I used to watch when I was a kid. It was one of my favorites. Also one of the ones that terrified me a lot. Jim Henson's 1982 classic, The Dark Crystal. What can I say about it? It's timeless treasure. I mean, it was one of the best ones. It was one of the ones that I love watching. I mean, it was an epic adventure. You know, of course, people have now they like the types that are superhero related. And a few years back, it was about Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings trilogies, The Hobbits, etc. A bunch of fantasies, actions, but The Dark Crystal was one of the best ones for me as a kid. I loved it. Even though there were some elements that terrified me. There were good parts, good bad parts, and like I said, this is what you're getting. I'm going to tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I would change. But you basically know the whole story. It's basically like all epic journeys. There's a hero, last of his kind, usually, because back in the day there was some kind of cataclysmic event, and it's not really specified. I'm pretty sure we're gonna find out when the Netflix series shows up that everyone knows about. And after the cataclysmic event, two different species arrived in the land of Gelflings and Podlings. The nice, calm, mystic types, the mystics, and the really creepy looking buzzards that look like they could be the distinct, like somebody could have messed with the genomes of Jim Henson's dinosaurs. They're called the Skeksis, and of course, there's differences, but in so many ways they're the same. I'm sorry, there's something going on inside if you're hearing that, and plus I have company in the other room talking, so if you hear that, sorry. But anyway, back to what I'm saying. This movie's great. Well, it's basically about like these two different races. They're at war with each other, but the downside is, if one gets hurt, the other one feels it. Like if, for example, somebody stabs, a Skeksis gets stabbed or killed, a Mystic also gets stabbed or killed, or basically it's the same thing. And for centuries they've been there on some distant galaxy of a planet, for centuries, ruling over all that is the Skeksis, while the Mystics live in kind of like a desert oasis type of place with a Gelfling, elf type of thing named Jin, raising him since I don't know when, probably since after the cataclysmic event, because supposedly it's hinted that, of course, it's not hinted, it's stated that the Skeksis killed his parents. Same thing with, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to get ahead of myself over here. Skeksis killed his parents and is raised by the Mystics, and maybe the leader of the Mystics. And what's happening is that during this time, his master is dying, going into the afterlife, and not only that, with the Skeksis, while they're having their annual replenishing from the crystal that basically revitalizes them and keeps them from dying and gives them all power and all the ability to see the future and see things that happen. Their boss is dying too, but it happens. They both happen in a different way. With Skeksis, there's a struggle for power on who's gonna rule, whether it's this grumpy guy that's kind of like a general, and this whimpering, cowardly, quietly one that always goes Chamberlain. They hate each other, and they're basically fighting over the scepter, and it's so creepy because the way their emperor dies is, you expect it to already be dead, but as soon as someone tries to touch the scepter, it rises up and it grabs it. It's like, that's mine. You ain't touching it. And then suddenly, last of its life force just goes and just becomes dust. And then the next thing you know, everyone's fighting, like debating, like who's gonna be the emperor? You should be the boss. No, you should be the boss. You should be the boss. And that's when Chamberlain goes, and he's like, it's time for me to try. So he tries and gets it, and then one of the other Skeksis is like, no, you can't touch it. He's like, and he looks at him, he's like, yeah, my boss. And he's grabbing it. And that's when the other one, that's really wants the title of king, goes to him. He's like, hey, don't touch my stuff. That's my stuff. And they start fighting over it. So they're like, hey, there's a better way to settle this. So they open up this little floor thing, and out comes this big tower of a stone, and there's these two blades, and each of them has to be hitting the blade against the stone till the blade, I think the stone cracks, and whoever does that is declared emperor. Since they basically can't do it the actual way, man, they're too old, and plus this is a kid show, so why am I talking about that? Well, anyway, the Whimperling Chamberlain, that's what they actually call him, loses, and the other one is crowned emperor. So as punishment for Chamberlain losing, they rip off his clothes and banish him from the kingdom, and he's just there whimpering, and he leaves. And during all this, after the Jen's master dies, he tells him, you have to go to the astronomy lady named Algra. She has the shard that can fix all this. And he's like, I don't want to leave y'all. I'm my family. And he's like, but he has no choice. And during all this, that's when his foster father, which he calls master, passes away into the next life. So he decides to go on his journey. And at first he's hesitant, and he's like, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to go alone. And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go alone. And then he goes, and as he's going, he's like, okay, I gotta follow the sun for a day, the bigger sun, because there's 3 suns, and this whole cataclysmic thing. It's all leading up to this whole cataclysmic thing where basically all the suns are gonna line up. The Earth is gonna reset, whether for good or bad. If he doesn't go in time to fix the crystal, then the lizard things are gonna rule forever while everyone else suffers, and that's his job to fix it. So that's why he finally goes to Algra to get the piece, and he finally goes to her. He finally goes to the astrologist, and she's like, at first he's captured by these little tentacle plant things, and she shows up, and she's like, who are you? And he's like, are you Algra? He's like, yeah, who are you? And he's like, I'm Jen. He's like, I'm a Gelfling. He's like, you can't be Gelfling. They're extinct. Skeksis and Gartham got rid of them all. He's like, well, I'm a Gelfling. He's like, I was sent here by my master to pick something up for me. He's like, is he here? And he's like, no, he passed away. He's like, oh, well, then he could be anywhere. And she's like, she looks at him, she's like, what do you want? And he's like, I want a shard. And he's like, okay. And then she lets him go and gets him inside, not knowing that he's being watched by the Skeksis and their crystal bats. Basically, they're seeing eye bats that are everywhere. Wherever they go, they'll send a homing beacon to the crystal. Everyone will go to the crystal and they'll see what's happening. And that's what happened. As soon as he's there, she gives him a box filled with crystals, and he's asking her, what's this and what's that? And she's telling him, like, pretty soon the suns are going to line up, everything's going to happen, all this stuff's going to happen, where the world's going to reset for good or bad, depending on what's going to be the outcome. And then she goes, too much talking here, pick a shard, a piece. And he's looking at there's a bunch of these pieces of crystals, and he's like, which one is it? And she's like, I don't know, just pick one. And he's just debating, like, which one is it? I don't know which one is it. How do I pick? How do I decide? And she's like, hurry up, you ain't got all time. I ain't got all day, and time's running out. Hurry up. So he remembers how the mystics had a calling. They would hum or buzz some kind of tone, and he decided, I'll do that. So he gets the he gets his flute. He had a flute, and he makes the sound. He makes the tone, which kind of like bounces off the crystalline, makes it glow bright purple or something, bright violet. And so he says, okay, I'll take this one. And he takes it and he starts talking with the old girl, like, where do I go? What do I do with it? And she's about to tell him what. All she tells him is, you got to heal it. And he goes, well, how do I do that? And she's all she says is, I don't know. And they start, like, she's about to give him more advice. And when these crab things called Garthim, big gigantic black crabs that are designed, they were made to basically capture gelflings, podlings, and take them to the Skeksis, so the Skeksis can do whatever they want to them. Well, they show up and they start tearing apart her home because they're after Jen for the crystal, so they could stop him. But he's able to get away from it. He stabs one of them in the face or the body, but it's metal. It's made of like some kind of armor, so it makes a ping, like a ding 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 ding, and it echoes. So while the mystics are walking, because it's during this time, they know it's their time to go too, also to the crystal. So they're going, and they can hear the ping. And what happens is during all this, he's able to make it out because they break a window, and he leaves. And while he's making his getaway from her, Ogre gets captured and taken to the Skeksis, and he's a little bit sad because of what happened. He blames himself. He wants to give up. The next thing you know, he's walking more and more, trying to find his way, and he ends up at this little oasis area, like a beautiful, kind of like something out of Avatar, just beautiful plants and very quiet, animals you've never seen, plants like you've never seen, and he's freaking out, like, oh man, what the heck is this place? And next thing you know, he's walking around because he's hearing somebody move around in that area. So he goes to look for what it is, whatever it is, and he ends up in a little hole. He's about to look in there, and then out pops this furry little rabbit dog cat thing or whatever it's called named Fizzgig. And that part honestly scared me as a kid. That part really scared me. It like made me jump. I was like, what the heck is that thing? You know? And but now I just look at it and I'm like, okay. But anyway, back to what I'm saying. When he's freaked out about it, another Gelfling pops up. A girl named Kira. And she basically tells the dog in what I'm presuming is Spanish, but I'll just call it Podling language, to basically behave and get away from there. So it listens and it goes to her, and she basically introduces herself in the same language. She's like, hi, who are you? What are you doing here? And he's like, are you a Gelfling? And she's like, yeah. He's like, I thought I was the only one. And she goes, same here. And while they're talking, he begins to, he's trying to get out of water, some kind of mud that he fell into because of the dog. So when she reaches for him, they have kind of like a shared mind link moment, and they both reveal every asset of their past, from what happened to their parents, what happened to their families, that the Skeksis captured all their families, burnt their villages, and basically killed them all, and they were the ones to survive and raised by different people. She was raised by Spanish weird-looking little gnome things called podlings, and he was raised by the mystics. And then after that, he's starting to sink more and more into the water, and he starts figuring out, so she starts calling up an animal. It's basically a giant toad, and it lets him get out. And then she's like, what's that? And he's like, oh, don't worry, she's kind, she's good, she won't hurt you. And they start talking. He's like, what just happened with us? And he's like, your name's Kira, right? And she's like, yes. And she's like, oh, we just had a mind link. We shared a moment. And it's like, oh, okay. And then next thing you know, she's like, we need to get out of here. And he's like, why? He's like, because this place is not safe. They're watching us, which she means the buzzards, the Skeksis. They're watching, and they want to capture all Gelflings and kill them because of the prophecy that one day a Gelfling's going to come and stop them all. And during all this, while they're going, they're headed away from somewhere. The Skeksis are throwing a munch on what I really don't know what it is, but it just looks like rotten food or something, you know. And they're just talking about, I think the Gelfling got away. It's like, no, the Gelfling didn't get away. My Gartham got him. We're good. And next thing you know, the crabs things show up with their bag filled with something, and they're like, oh, the Gartham returned. Maybe they have the Gelfling. And they open up the bag, and it's Olgra. And she's like, you idiots, what do you want from me? He's like, this is no Gelfling. Where the heck is the Gelfling? He's like, of course I'm not a Gelfling, morons. It's like, he's gone. Why? If you wanted him so bad, why didn't you ask me? I would have given him to you. No, easier to send your clunky little mechanic thingies to wreck my house. Dumb little things. And she kicks him, and she gets mad at him. She's like, where the heck is he? It's like, gone. And by the way, he's gonna destroy all of you. He's gonna make you guys nothing. And they're like, she was with him. She helped him. Lock her up. And then like they're debating like, how do we get this done? And they're like, oh, send the crystal bats. Send the crystal bats. And then they're like, they're basically little pets of theirs that have this little crystal iris in their eye, and they can, whatever they see, like I said. And they go, and as they're going, one of them actually finds the Gelflings in a boat that's headed down the river to her village, to Kira's village. And as this is happening, the bat sees them and she's like, get down. They're watching. He's like, what's happening? And she knocks the bat unconscious in the water. And she tells him that's a crystal bat. If it was to see us, then it would have alerted the Skeksis and they would have came and got us. And the next thing you know, it wakes up and it sees them and it's like, oh, there they are. And by the time when they make it back to her village, which is the Podling village, these are like little gnomes or little things that speak Spanish. And they raised her, and they get there, and she introduces him to them, and they like him, and they're basically having a fiesta or a party or whatever, and they're having fun. And he's learning about their culture, and he's telling her what he has to do with the shard, that he has to get there before all three suns line up, and he has to heal the crystal. He doesn't know how. And while they're talking and he's having fun, they have no idea that they're being followed by Chamberlain, the Skeksis that was vanished. And during all this, the Gartham show up, and they're wrecking all the homes and the food and everything, trying to get to the crystal, trying to get to everybody. And they capture practically all her people, all the podlings, towards the village. And they almost take the Gelflings, but he stabs at them with the crystal. They let him go, and he runs with her. And then as soon as they come close to them, Chamberlain, the Skeksis, shows up and he stops them. He's like, no. It's like, no, you can't have them. You can't have them yet. And for a while they think maybe he's a good guy, maybe he's on our side. And they're running. They're like, how like I said, he's like, how come he saved us? He saved us from his own Gartham. And the boys, Jen's like, well, who is he? He's like, he's a Skeksis. Like, maybe he's good. And they start talking and everything. And of course, Jen gets all depressed, and he's like, man, it's all my fault. If I had not found this shard, there's none of this would have happened. He tosses it, and then she's like, don't blame yourself. This always happens. And she puts some medicine on his wound because he got hurt by the crabs, by the Gartham. And they go to sleep. And next thing you know, they wake up, and they're just calming down because like, hey, they're safe, they're good. So they're preparing to leave. And while all this is happening, the Skeksis, the Gartham show up at the castle, and they unload all the podlings for the Skeksis. And they get all the podlings, they tie them up to this little chair that is right in front of this machine that's kind of like a laser machine for eyes, and it reflects the power of the crystal. The downside is it's not for good when it pertains to other species, just the Skeksis, because as soon as they put the little podlings into the chair, the power of the crystal basically drains them of their free will. It drains them of their life force and turns it into like some kind of liquid that they drink, and it basically gives them a fountain of youth effect. But because it's not a Gelfling, it's not pure enough to basically be permanent. So they want to get the Gelflings for that, and that part I found kind of creepy. Um, and next thing you know, as all this is happening, um, the Gelflings are walking around. You know, they spot an area that supposedly was inhabited by the Gelflings. You know, has a throne room, has like, but it's old, it's ruins, and it has throne room, it has homes, it has um, hieroglyphics of, you know, the prophecy and everything, and you know, Kira doesn't know what it means or what it is, and she's like, we just need to get out of here. This I feel bad energy here, um, and it's not really established what happened, but it would be interesting to finally actually see when the Netflix series comes out. I hope they actually touch on all this. Well, anyway, back to what I'm saying. He begins to. She's like, I can't read this stuff. And he's like, well, I can. And this is writing. These are words. And she's like, what's that? And he's like, what does it state? My master taught me. And he starts reading it and starts talking about the prophecy. And then he starts realizing what he has to do. And next thing you know, the Skeksis Chamberlain shows up and he's trying to manipulate them. And he's like, so it's all the prophecy's fault. If the prophecy hadn't been stated, we would have left all you Gelflings alone. We just want to be good. We want to make peace with y'all. Come with me to the castle and we'll make peace. And he's like interested. Like the look on his face was like basically saying, this is interesting. Maybe he's telling the truth and he's going to go. But luckily, Kira snaps him out. He's like, no, don't fall for it. He's lying. It's a trick. Come on, let's go. And so he leaves. And the next thing you know, when they escape, when they get away, he's like, come back. Come on, make peace. Come on, please. And during all this, of course, his people that adopted him, the Mystics, are headed still on their voyage to the castle because they're being called. And you know, as a kid, I wondered what it was until I saw it now, and it was interesting. And of course, all that stuff, you know, and they're headed there, and they're deciding like, how are we gonna get there? They're able to get away from him, and he's still trailing them. He's still after them for some reason. And they're being chased and pursued, and they're wondering, how are we going to get to the castle? How do we get to the castle? And she's like, ooh, I know how. And so she makes this animal call, and these rabbit, kangaroo, horse hybrid things come out called lampreys. No, lance riders. They're called lance riders. And they get on them. They get on him, and they go riding to the rest of the way to the castle. And when they're there, they notice that the people from her village that were captured are also on their way because they run into those Garthams. And the Garthams are taking the podlings in. So they decide, hey, Kira decides, hey, let's go help them. And he's just standing there like, what? And she goes and she saves them. She knocks them off of the Gartham, and she gets off the Gartham and try and open the little sack to get him out, while the Lance Rider's fighting the Gartham, and basically going overboard with it, taking it with him. While Jin gets off and tries to help too, and does the same thing, but his ends up dead because it's piled on by all the Gartham. So they're cornered, and they're able to let the podlings out, and they're cornered. But as they're all cornered, Kira gets Jen, and she jumps off the cliff, and everyone thinks, hey, they're dead. They're gonna die. They're dead. But she has wings, so she glides down with him in her arms. And he's like, how come I don't got wings? And she's like, you're a boy. And it was interesting. It was interesting because that's how they differentiate, I guess. And they find that there's an underground cave that leads directly into the castle. And they notice that they're still being followed by Chamberlain. He's watching them, and they're going in there, and she's like, we need to go back. I don't have a good feeling. I'm a little scared. And the next thing you know, Chamberlain shows up. He's like, oh, y'all are finally here. Well, come with me. I'll take you to it. We can be at peace. And he grabs them, and he's pulling. And she's like, they're like, get away from me. No. And it upsets Jen, and he stabs Chamberlain with the crystal, wounding his arm, wounding his hand. And not only that, but also wounding one of the mystics. He's bleeding too. He's like, so my hand, I feel the pain. And during all this, Chamberlain gets upset, so he drops a bunch of rocks on top of Jin, trapping him in them while he's unconscious. Fizzgig, the little furball thing, is trying to attack Chamberlain and follow Kira, but she's like, "Oh, you stay with Jin, and she's going and she's trying to fight at the same time. And as this happens, you know, he's still unconscious, and Fizzgig's trying to wake him up. And then by the time Chamberlain gets in there, and all the other Skeksis are like, "What are you doing back? Weren't you banished?" And he shows them the Gelfling. He's like, "Oh no, Gelfling's here, run for your lives!" And they go, of course, to the Emperor, and they're like, "Oh no, there's a Gelfling. He shows up at the Gelfling, and they're like he's like, "Oh look what I did for you. None of these idiots could have caught you a Gelfling. I caught you a Gelfling. You wanted a Gelfling? Here she is." And they're like, "Well, what do we do with her?" And they're like, all of them are like, "We're sworn to kill all Gelflings." And he's like, no, you ain't touching this one. This one's mine. This was my gift to the Emperor." And then the sciencey one's like, "Why doesn't the Emperor drink her youth, her essence?" And so they're gonna do that. They decide to take her down to the laboratory, where they do that. They shove her in the chair. They tie her up, and they have her look at the reflection of the crystal. And while they're doing that, she's getting under the sway, and she's freaking out, and it's slowly draining her essence and making her old. But then she hears Jin's like finally wake up, and he's like, fight them, resist the power, resist it." And she starts fighting, and she, like I said, she has a gift for talking to animals. So I don't know how Olgra knows about this. Maybe she was part of the people that helped the Gelflings find their homes. So that's probably how she knows. And she tells her, "You have a gift for talking to animals. Why don't you call them that freedom? Call them." And she starts like saying in her own the Podling language for the animals to fight, to help her. And they bust out of their cages, and they're freaking out the science Skeksis, and he's like, "Shut up, all you animals! Be quiet! Be quiet! Be quiet! Don't let me hurt you!" And when they bust out, they basically like, it's like something out of Critters. They start attacking him, jumping on him, and fighting him. And the next thing you know, he ends up tripping, and he falls out of the reflective window into the pit of lava that is underneath the crystal. So he burns to death, and he's gone. And 2 seconds later, one of the mystics is burned to death mysteriously, but no one even bats an eye. They just keep going. They just keep going to the castle. And so she ends up getting free, and along with Olga and all the other animals, and she's warning her, "You have to hurry, you have to go, because it's already time." She's like, "What do you mean it's time? The 3 suns are almost one. It's almost going to be time. It's almost going to be time." And she goes, and he's able to go to, he's able to find, Jen's finally able to get up, and he finds his way in there somehow, but he ends up he takes a wrong turn. He ends up in the basically feeding pit for the Gartham, and they start attacking him, and he's fighting and trying to get away, and then the dumb little things basically dig a hole into the fiery area, and he goes through that hole, and he's climbing up, trying to get away from them, and he notices, hey, down there's fire, up there's a crystal. So he's going and going and going. He finally makes it up to the area where the window's at. So he goes into that window where Olgra's at, and he talks with Olgra. He's like, you gotta hurry, you gotta make the prophecy happen before it's almost time. And he's like, where's Kira? And she's pointing, so she's like, she went that way. So he goes, and they're all up on they're all both hiding in their own area, while the Skeksis are preparing for the final ceremony, for which will make them permanent unless Jen and Kara can stop it. And they're happy. They're like, yay, we're gonna live forever, yay. And they're about to, Jen's about to jump on there and do what he's got to do. But when he jumps, he drops the crystal, because the Skeksis already know he's there due to the dog barking like crazy and not shutting up. They bust him, and that's when he jumps and he lands on the crystal, and he drops the piece of the crystal on the floor. And the Emperor grabs it. He's like, it's all mine. And he's gonna get it. And next thing you know, the dog jumps on him, and it bites his arm, and he drops the crystal. And then he throws the dog in the fire. And don't worry, the dog's fine, because it grabs onto the area with the reflector. Thankfully, Olga stood down there. She sees him, and she gets him out with this fork or pitchfork or whatever it is. And But what's happening upstairs is that Kira flies down. She grabs the crystal because he dropped it, and they're like trying to coax her, like, "Come on, if you give us the crystal, we'll let you go. We're not gonna hurt you. We just want the crystal." And she's like, "You're liars!" And she's fighting and fighting them. She's like, and of course, Jen's like, "No, no, no. We'll give you the crystal if you leave us alone. You leave her alone. You leave me alone. We'll be fine." And she goes, "No, you have to heal. You have to set things right. You have to fulfill the prophecy." And she throws him the crystal. He grabs it, and he grabs it, and then right then and there, Kira gets stabbed in the back, and she dies slowly and painfully. And he's upset. And by this time, the suns are already aligned, and it's already hit the crystal like poof, like something out of Lord of the Rings, like I said. And as this happens, he's mad and upset and hurt, and he screams. And as he screams, he shoves the shard back into the crystal, restoring everything, and everything starts to reset as this is happening. Basically, all that was evil, all that was bad, all that was unclean was getting erased. And during all this, the mystics show up, and they basically start getting connected to the Skeksis more. Because before it was dealing with pain and death, and whatever happened to them. So they're basically becoming one being. They're becoming one creature. And it is hinted at what happened, because in the movie it is hinted at what happened to it, because Jen's like, "I wonder what I'm supposed to do with this thing. It doesn't look special," in one of the scenes, and he gets a glimpse of it where it shows one of the Skeksis cracking the crystal, and it freaked him out. And anyway, back up to what I'm saying, after they become one, he's able to come. He's down due to the shockwave of the crystal. He's on the floor next to Kira, and he's holding her, and he's crying because he cared for her a lot, and they care for each other, and she's dead. And next thing you know, these beings made of pure light, along with the crystal, because the crystal's changed from, it's not dark purple. It's pure reddish white light, and they're beings. And then Olga's like, "What was sundered and undone, behold, the two made one," which she means the Skeksis and the mystics became one being, and they're these big mystical crystal-like creatures, and they're like, "This was all our fault. We're sorry, because of our arrogance, because of our pride, we broke this thing, and it made our reality go into chaos. And we thought we could do better, but thank you for freeing us. You have fulfilled the prophecy, and because of that, we're going to give you what you desire." And they tell him, "Hold her tight, because she is for you and you are for her," which is so moving, because you could tell that they actually developed a friendship and they care for each other. And she's brought back to life, and he's like, "Okay, now you two are," and they look at them and they're like, "Okay, now you two are in charge. You guys are in charge of this land. What you decide to do with it, that's your deal. Just know that this crystal's going to be helping you do that." And they're like, "Because this is all yours," and they take off. Those beings just disappear into the heavens, and at the end, you just see, all you see is the whole entire kingdom of, I don't know what that place is called, but of the Gelflings and Podlings and all that stuff. You just see it. It's made beautiful. It looks great. It's awesome. It looks like something out of kind of looks 100 times better than Wizard of Oz when she ended up in Munchkin Land. But 100,000 times better, I gotta say. And that's how it is. What I liked, I gotta say, a lot of stuff. I mean, the Henson Company, they did a great job with this film. They did a great job with what they had back then, the technology. I mean, the puppetry, the cinematography, the editing, everything. I mean, the story was just so epic. Just the characters, the designs of the characters, the designs of the sets. It's jaw-dropping. It's amazing. I mean, man, so cool, so awesome. It's so great. The story is just great. It's one of those awesome movies I just enjoy. I mean, the story is great. Um, I don't actually find much of a problem, other than I do find the Skeksis creepy. But then again, back then, being creepy really didn't bother anybody. I mean, kids could sit down and watch scary stuff, and not scary stuff that was designed for them, and not be worried about it. You know, and it was good. I mean, I loved it. I wouldn't see a problem with it at all. I mean, Jim Henson did a great job. Well, his company did a great job. Jim Henson's company did an amazing job in it. All his people, they did a great job. The actors, the puppeteers, the set designers, everybody, they did a great job. What I would change, though, I get that less is more. Hopefully, with the Netflix series, we get more information, because it's a prequel to that movie. So hopefully, they give us more information on it. You know what happened, because we only get little hints. I mean, I would have loved to get more hints to what happened in the past. Maybe have, the shard, since it's the dark crystal, we don't see much except it's replenishing of those little lizard Skeksis creatures. Why not have something like Lord of the Rings, where the shard, he has the shard, and like those around him are kind of, it brings out the darkness. Since it's called the dark crystal, why not have the shard, bring out the darkness till it's one with the actual crystal and gets purified? But have it like whoever he's with, Kira, she gets in her mind that, why don't we use it? It's powerful and all stuff. People get corrupted, or he's slowly getting corrupted, by it as they go. And the closer they get, the more stronger the pull is. It's like, or like a beacon, like it's going ding, 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 like glowing and showing where he has to go. It only glows once when he does the humming with the flute. But why not have it glow the more, like a guide, like a little GPS thing, like doom, like it glows whenever he's close to the thing, or like a warning sound whenever a Skeksis or somebody bad's near, something like that. Give us more that the crystal can do than just be a trinket, a tool. Give it more to do than just have him stab somebody, or have him make a ding, 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 ding sound. Give the crystal more to do, more to that effect. That's what I would change. That's what I would change. Like, give the crystal more effect. Have it, influence behaviors. Have it glow whenever it's in the presence of darkness or evil, as a warning, or make a tone whenever he's getting close, or something like that. Close to the goal. That would have been awesome. That would have been an awesome thing to do. In there. All in all, I gotta say, it's one of my favorites. I recommend it for, children, families, children and their families and their children. It's a good movie. I mean, yeah, there are some creepy elements, but if you're willing enough to let your children do certain things, why not this movie? It's good. I loved it, and I'm pretty sure if I ever had children, I would let them watch it. But anyway, that's my thoughts. I think it's a great movie. I think the Jim Henson Company did a great job on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the Netflix series. So that's what the man says. That's my thoughts on it, man. Just leave a comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and leave a comment. Tell me what your thoughts on the Dark Crystal are. If you liked it, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, what you would change. Did you think it was scary? Did you think it was good? Tell me your thoughts. Subscribe, ring that bell, and leave me a message sometime. Tell me, leave a comment or a message. Tell me what you would change, what your thoughts are, and possibly what movies you want me to review next. Okay, well, that's my thoughts. That's what I say. Yeah, that's corny. I'm not gonna do a catchphrase, but that's.